and welcome to We Watch Bad Films, episode 11, where we watch bad films so you don't have to. I'm Gary, and joining me today is Jay.
Well, hello.
Hi there, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm great. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. It's a rare bout of sunshine today, as things get very rainy in this part of the world. Now, this is not what we're going to talk about, and as usual, I don't know what film we're going to talk about, but just to pick your brains, I don't know how well known it is, but I don't really like superhero films. But for some reason, I watched Batman versus Superman, Something of Justice, and Justice League
Yeah,
today. I don't really know why. I've just heard they're so bad, and I thought I'd want to watch them. And before I go any further, have you seen them?
I've seen both. I own both.
You own both. Well, there's a two-part question there. So you own them, but do you like them?
I liked Man of Iron Steel, whatever it's
I,
called.
I
Man of
haven't seen Man
Aluminium.
of Steel. I haven't got. To, I didn't really realise that was a part of the franchise as well, and
Yeah, I
wasn't
don't
going to
think
bother
they did
trying to find
either.
it.
I don't think they did either. I liked Man of Aluminium Foil first, but
Mm.
then I was thinking, oh, okay, this new kind of sequel could be quite good, and it wasn't.
Mm.
And then Justice Gang, or whatever it's called, was even worse,
Mm.
and I think is held up as being one of the worst films of the last 5 years. But
Interesting. So go on.
But the caveat for Batman versus Superman, something of justice, as you quite rightly called it, there was a director's cut released on Blu-ray, and I bought it second hand because I really wanted it to be good, and it is better, the director's cut.
Mm.
Having said all of that, I think DC superhero films are basically rubbish.
Well, I don't particularly care for any superhero films, so I don't really know why I watched it. But anyway, so Batman versus Superman, I thought, and I don't know how you throw away a story like that and just make it so. So I just couldn't care what happened at all in any of it, which is made doubly a shame by the two leads. Henry Cavill is a great Clark Kent Superman, and
Mm.
Ben Affleck is never someone I would have cast in that role. But you go, you know what? He's going to be a good Batman. Um, and I understand. I may be wrong because I'm not very good at my comic book movie film trivia. But there was going to be a Batman Affleck standalone film, but that didn't happen, and now we've moved on to Robert Pattinson. Is that right?
That is correct, yes. It seems to me that DC really are throwing loads of films at the wall to see which sticks. And what bizarrely stuck was the Joker film, which is
Yeah. Um, in some way, the Joker was in part a weird inspiration for this podcast because we sat in the car talking about it, and we had so much to say. And I remember saying to you, "We should have recorded that. That'd make a great podcast." But we've changed tack slightly, and here we are. But coming on to Justice League, I actually thought there's some moments of joy in that's kind of sparky and enjoyable. I said this on a previous podcast. I love a getting the band back together montage, and that starts with one, going around collecting the Justice League, and that's really entertaining, I thought.
oh my God, Gary, are you going to be the only person who hates the Marvel Cinematic Universe and kind of likes the DC universe, and your favorite
Oh,
of them is the Justice League? You
oh,
are in a very, very small minority there.
yeah, you are twisting my words somewhat. I said I enjoyed that bit, um, but uh, as the film progresses and it gets into the CGI punching stuff, then it's completely boring.
Oh my God,
Um,
it's just
the
an
rebirth,
absolute mess. What a mess.
yeah, and the rebirth of Superman himself is also very boring and a bit sort of. I didn't really get why they were getting back together. Something about cubes. I didn't really follow that, if I'm
Didn't really
honest.
get or didn't really care.
a little column A and a little column B,
Yeah.
because I'm sure it's there if you paid full attention.
I'll tell you
But
what is there. I can tell you what is there and is present and in full effect every second it's on screen is Henry Cavill's is it or isn't it their moustache CGI nonsense weird upper lip? I don't know if you know.
yes, now I did hear about that, and I specifically looked out for those scenes, and it's the first shot of the film and the final shot of the film are both CGI captured ones. I mean, what kind of decision is that?
Oh my god. That's got to go down as one of the worst mess ups in cinematic history for quite some time. It's not something. It's not just an anecdote that you can talk about. It is literally there on the screen. It is awful. It is so bad.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It just deforms Henry Cavill's attractive face into this weird puffy lump. It ends up looking like Agent Smith with a case of the mumps.
It looks like Superman who's sellotaped a profiterole onto his upper lip.
Yes, yes.
I've
That's one
amused
way of putting it.
myself. I've amused myself with that image.
Well done, patisserie man. Am I right? Again, it's all news that kind of happens around me, and I don't really pay attention. But the Snyder Cut, is that Justice League?
Yes, it is. Yeah, Justice
Right.
League is one of those films that is plagued by, which seems to be a modern way of doing things, plagued by awful production woes, where the original director, I think Zack Snyder was the original director, and then he was replaced about 2/3 of the way through. The party line is that he was having personal issues. I don't know
Yes,
anything
that's what
about
I've
that.
read. I believe
Yeah.
it was to do with one of his children was very seriously ill,
Yes. So I'm not
or
going to.
possibly even died. I might have got that wrong. I'm really sorry.
We.
But yeah, that's how I read it.
I mean, obviously that I'm not going to comment on that, but this is a classic modern IP franchise issue where a director is hired, they film basically a film, and then the producers or the studio don't like it for whatever reason, come in and often change the director, and then you end up with this weird Frankenstein botched film at the end, which tries to
Mm,
please everyone and succeeds in pleasing no one. So that
yeah.
is the story, and then the internet heard about all this, didn't like the final outcome, and heard that there was a final Snyder cut, which makes me think that Zack Snyder did create his own film, which he gave to the studio. But obviously, none of us know the truth of all this. But the story is that there is a Snyder cut, and it was just a rumor for a long time, which Disney denied, or sorry, Warner Brothers and DC denied, but is now going to happen and is going to be streamed on a service, I think.
Yeah. Is it HBO Max? One of
I
those
think so,
services?
something like that, yeah. I'm intrigued. I'm not a massive fan of Zack Snyder, but I also don't go into the
Mm,
bashing that he gets. I really like Watchmen. I particularly love the huge, fat ultimate cut, which actually this year or within the last 12 months, 18 months, got re-released on Blu-ray, which actually didn't ever happen in this country. It was only a US release, which puts in the cartoon elements, the animated elements.
yep. The Black Pearl.
Yeah.
Black Pearl? No, that can't be right. That's Pirates of the Caribbean, isn't it?
One of those.
Pirate ship thing.
Yeah, yeah. It's one of those. Yeah, a piratey name, and I really like the Watchmen film. I do think that Zack Snyder makes the look of his films too dark and muddy. I don't think he's an amazing director, but I also don't think he's terrible. I'm,
Yeah, and I applaud that he has a vision and a style. It doesn't do it for me, I have to say, and I find Watchmen a little cold, though I really appreciate how authentic it is.
yeah,
It's not a diluted Watchmen experience,
no,
with changes that I can get on board with, but I'm not in a hurry to see it again. Which means I'm not really in a hurry to see a Snyder cut of Justice League, just to see if the good bits are his work.
I was interested probably about 5 years ago when well, let me finish that sentence because that sounds a bit weird. About 5 years ago, when I was interested after seeing Man of Steel and then Batman versus Superman, the extended cut, I had an interest in possibly seeing as some sort of decent version of Justice League. But now I'm not interested either, quite frankly. I probably will try to find it at some point, but I'm not. I don't have much hope for it. Let's say that.
That's fair enough. Anyway, I thought I'd bring that up as it's something I saw and was interested about, and I knew you would have an opinion on, and wanted to catch your opinion as we are trying to watch bad films. So on that note, I guess we should look at this week's offering. Do you have a list of randomness I can pick from?
I do have a list of randomness. I always get quite scared.
How many entries should I pick from?
So this is quite a fearful moment for me because it's like it's like having a platter full of awful things which you have to choose from. Like, which instrument of torture do you want? So I'm going to give you 1, 2, 3. Pick from 5 films. There you go, 1 to 5.
I will pick number 4.
Oh God.
No. Number 2. Okay, number 4.
Okay, number 4. Okay, number 4. The title of number 4 is from 1988. So already a good time period. Is the film Traxx.
And how are we spelling Traxx?
We are spelling it Traxx because we're crazy.
I knew it would be unusual.
Yeah, of course.
I just smelt it.
Oh God!
That's why I asked. I knew it was going to be ACKS.
Yeah, of course.
I had a feeling it would be like that. What can you tell me? Anything about it?
I can tell that it's held up as being one of the worst films of all time. It's one of those ones, but and is unintentionally hilarious, but also is often quoted as being intentionally hilarious as well. It's a comedy.
Okay.
And there are some people who see this film who actually do find it funny where it is meant to be funny. So who knows?
I don't know what to expect. I think we should go and watch it. Why don't you guys go and listen to a trailer? We'll go watch a film.
The police wouldn't take him.
I think I want to go into cookies.
The animal shelters wouldn't touch him.
Maybe I could use another opinion.
Thank God he's on our side.
Very funny. Are you a cop?
Temporarily. My cookie business is a little undercapitalized.
Let me try one of your peppermint prune cookies, please.
Introducing Traxx.
Decent people on one side of the room, scum on the other. You're all scum?
He knows only one thing about the law.
What'll it be? Guns or fists?
Sometimes it gets in the way.
Fish.
Done.
Anybody got any ideas what to do about this cowboy?
Kill the sucker!
So, attention, all you criminals, crooks, and bad guys. Hit the dirt. It's a Traxx alert.
Look out! Gonorrhea!
The new and improved, totally tasteless approach to justice.
What do you think of a chive cookie?
I don't think anybody gonna want your jive cookies.
Traxx.
Come back again, and you're dead. Good night.
He's coming to clean up
Good night, come back again, and I'll kill you.
your town
Yeah, don't ever, you especially, don't ever come back.
real soon.
So we've just watched Traxx from 1988. That's Traxx with 2 X's, and don't you forget it. Initial reactions, Jay?
I feel a bit sick.
Is that because the sheer amount of content?
I think so. And just so confusing, and like the tone and the soundtrack, and the imagery, and then it ends on a Ferris wheel. I think I've just it's just made me feel a bit queasy.
Well, let's try and cover off what happened. I bet you've forgotten the opening scene, haven't you? Which was a hold-up at a pet store.
Oh yeah.
And then our main man, Mr. Traxx himself, that's his name, Traxx, does a Marty McFly. He tows onto a police car, flies through the pet shop window and shoots the perp in the face. This is played for laughs, by the way. Opening credits. Yeah, obviously. We then have a mini flashback with Traxx playing the John Rambo card as he has antics around El Salvador, Middle East, bit vague, and Nicaragua. The Nicaragua adventure. He says, I'm going to give all this up and open a cookie shop. So this cookie thing is a running theme throughout the film. So enjoy that. We cut to some place which is called Hadleyville. There's carnage in the streets. There's shootings. There's robberies. There's rubbish everywhere. Traxx comes to this town to mete out justice. He saves the life of a guy called Dieter, who becomes his friend throughout the film. He then starts on his crusade to clean up the town. He wipes out a bordello by just opening all the doors and shouting, "Get out!" Shoots a guy dead in front of a preschool. That's nice. But we are then introduced to the big bad of the piece, Aldo Palucci. Yeah, and that's where it starts to unravel. The plot's really strong in that first third. It's really templated in a good 80s action movie way, and then it just kind of loses it. We then introduce some other bad guys called the Guzik brothers. There's an 80s montage. There's a mayor in it. There's lots of scenes of cookies being baked in various fish flavors. Yeah, Traxx visits Palucci. Palucci visits Traxx. He gets blown up. That is, Palucci gets blown up when he farts and kills himself.
I forgot that.
Not making it up. The Guziks then ride into town with a Little League baseball team strapped to their car and invite Traxx to a high noon type situation. There's a big old school car chase with piles of boxes knocked over. And in the dying moments, Traxx shoots dynamite out of the baddies' hands. They drop it into their car and it blows up. Our closing victorious scene is then Traxx opening his cookie shop, and there's a big town-wide party. The end.
Yeah, I mean, yet again, you've made that sound kind of coherent.
Yeah, there was a lot of incoherent scenes. Do you know, okay, I'm going to say this off the front. I'm a little bit disappointed it didn't quite work as well as it did, because there's some stuff in there that is kind of funny, and it's acted good enough. The effects, as in the action and the stunts, are all good enough. Some of the jokes are good enough, but it just kind of wobbles about a third of the way through and doesn't really recover. Because I think with not a lot of tweaking, and you either go in one or two directions, you either go down the action first, comedy second of an Arnold Schwarzenegger type film, like a Last Action Hero, or you go the other way and do a comedy first, action second, more of an Airplane style. And I think you could have a good film there. I don't think you're too far away from making that really watchable and cult classic.
Right, okay.
You don't agree, do you?
I don't know where you would be getting this footage from, because what I could see wasn't a complete and utter mess. I do agree with you. It started off like, oh, okay, this is almost competent, right? This is like some just budget, but kind of a normal 80s action comedy. And he's actually quite good. We both said that the main character, Traxx, is played by Shadour Stevens.
That common name, Shadow Stevens, yes, who we described intermittently as Peter Stringfellow crossed with Hugh Jackman, crossed with Ric Flair.
I mean, his hair is doing a lot of work. If you only watch this film for one thing, then his hair is something to behold. I thought of him
It is
as,
primo 80s hair.
yeah, he looks like an 80s action Aslan from Lion and Witch and the Wardrobe. It's solid and huge.
It is a full can of Silvercrin on every take.
But we thought that he was actually, everything that he was doing and saying was, he had charisma and he was doing it quite well. He was acting it quite well, and it was almost like you could almost be an 80s action film star. But
he was delivering the lines right as well for this spoof satire action. The lines were delivered in a straight enough way, but with a bit of a smirk that said, "I know what I'm saying." So that was all right, and he's okay in himself.
Yeah, I mean, we are clutching at straws here because so the first third of it kind of makes sense. It's like, yeah, okay, this is just like a really average 80s action film. We did say right at the beginning, is this meant to be a comedy? I mean, it obviously is, but it's not really funny. And the parts we're laughing at, are they meant to be funny? The tone is really weird, but it was kind of coherent. And then in the middle, it was like, I stopped talking. I kept thinking to myself, I can't keep saying the sentence to you, Gary. What is going on? What is going on? Every scene, it was like, Gary, what's happening? Help me. I don't understand. Who are these people? Where are they? What is this scene about? I was really confused. I was so confused.
Yeah, it's so I don't want to get too graphic, but to pick on a couple of scenes.
Oh, graphic, Gary. This film gets graphic, so go for it. Come on.
So our bad guy, Pellucci, we'll talk about him more in a minute, is struggling to get an erection, so he's pumping iron stuff. Yeah. And then this is the point at which Traxx bursts through the window on his motorbike. And he confronts him and says, "Get out of town," and then drives off, pretty much. It's a bit weird. That took a long time to do it.
Yeah, I mean, as you're talking, I've got so many questions, but carry on.
Well, the following scene, Traxx arrives back at his camp, and they're just camping in the forest for some reason, him and his mate Dieter. And he then has to Dieter has to prise a bullet out of his arse with a knife. And it's just out of nowhere, that bit.
I don't know how to talk about this film because you've just glossed over sort of 2.5 scenes, yeah? And you've picked out what was the sort of the plot, the main focus of these scenes. But as you're talking, I'm thinking, yeah, but what about this? What about this? What about this? He bursts through the room of the main guy who is, I'm afraid to say, getting a hand job whilst pumping iron in bed. And Traxx bursts through the bedroom on his bike wearing a handkerchief round his face, which he then immediately pulls off. And I'm like, what? Why is he wearing a mask? Why did he? And then why has he pulled it off? And then you forgot the scene after that, after he leaves the bedroom, where he walks down a corridor and he meets a man who's completely topless with like graffiti all over him and an arrow through his head. And we were like, who is this man? What is he wearing?
He's given no explanation. I don't know if he's supposed to be a spoof of something. We don't know.
And he's got this really weird voice, and they're talking for about 30 seconds, and then it cuts to him back at the camp with this other guy, and we were like, who was that? Who was that guy with stuff all over him? And then when he gets to the camp, he's like, he's been shot. And I was like, shot by who? Who shot him? What on earth is going on? And then the scene ends with the guy on top of Traxx about to put his pants down. God, I'm just in those 2.5 scenes. It's like, what is going on?
Yeah. I wish I could say you were exaggerating, Jay, but that's exactly what happened. You neither added nor subtracted something from what was on the film there. Yeah. I mean, there's more scenes like that. There's him. There's the 80s montage bit. Now, we all love an 80s montage, you know, essentially just like it was never bettered than in Team America World Police, where they actually had the song, "We gotta have a montage," and their character, and they even spell it out in the lyrics, you know, trying to learn something over a period of time and get better over a period of time. So I think they got the script for Traxx and thought, damn it, it's 1988. We need to have a musical montage piece in the middle of our film. But they didn't actually know what they were for. They didn't know they're there to show someone learning or showing something happening over a period of time while you're doing up the restaurant or whatever it is in your montage. And they just had a montage.
They had a montage
where Traxx and Dieter are doing their hitchhiker dance on the pier. Loads of stuff's happening.
There was let's just be clear about this, listeners. There was a montage where there was nothing happening in the montage. So Gary and I were watching the film and we were like, what is this montage meant to be doing? There is nothing happening. There were shots of the two guys doing their dodgy dance, like you just said, and then there were shots of people doing their gardening, and there were shots of like what? It's like, what the hell is this montage? It was bizarre.
Yeah, and there's still more. You know, there was one of. Let's talk about the bad guy. Let's talk about our big bad-ish Aldo Palucci, who's played by Robert Davi. And Jay, you recognised him from?
Oh, he. So this is this film Traxx is 1988. The following year, 1989, he stars as the main bad guy in the Bond film License to Kill, and I recognised him from that.
Yeah, no small role. And I realised a couple of years earlier he's in The Goonies as one of the Fratelli brothers.
Yeah.
The one that isn't Joe Pantoliano. And this guy's still acting. He's got a lot of good roles. And he's got decent bad guy presence, you know. He's got that Steven Seagal in the 80s type look, the very slick back Latino style.
Yeah. And he's certainly set up as the main bad guy. He's slightly typecast, but he's very good in that kind of role. And you think, oh, okay, I know where this is going. This is the main bad guy. This is the.
You don't need to tell me anymore because you just roll that actor in. Big bad guy.
The antagonist to Traxx.
Yeah, and he has his cartel of, I think it's drug dealer guys. It's not super clear. And, you know, he has his boardroom where he intimidates them all, but they're all supposed to laugh when he laughs. That joke nearly works. It's so close to working, but it's just hammered on the head a little bit too hard. But then his accountant ends up with the Guzik brothers, who are the other baddies. So there's definitely another plot has been roped into that shouldn't be there.
I didn't understand the Guzik brothers. So about 3/4 of the way through, literally 5 seconds of a news reporter sort of explains who the Guzik brothers are. But the Guzik brothers turn up about halfway through the film, and there's just repeating shots of them traveling in a limousine along a random bit of road with the accountant of Aldo Palucci, who we think is the main bad guy. And these shots kept coming up, and I kept saying to Gary, who are these guys? What's happening? Who are these people in a car? Where are they? And so it's not clear. But
they're not introduced at all until that news recast, which is way after they have appeared on screen several times.
Yeah. But then, but we still think that that Aldo Palucci is the main bad guy. But that gets flushed down the toilet quite quickly in quite fantastical style.
Yeah, when he comes to visit Traxx at his little campsite, they have a bit of banter. Gets in his car. This is what I think of your cookies. Farts, and then his car blows up. I think it was because he lit a cigar afterwards. I think that's what they were going for.
Oh God, that is. So this is okay. If we're going to talk about plot points here, okay. Traxx, the main guy, has already burst into the main villain's bedroom with a gun on a motorbike whilst he's getting a hand job. Okay, we've already had that, and he sort of says, "Get out of town, or I'll kill you," or something like that. But Gary and I were like, "Well, you've already killed about 1 million people, Traxx. Why don't you kill the main bad guy right there?" So he doesn't do that, and then about 20 minutes later, the main bad guy enters his camp. We don't know how he knows he's in a camp. He says, "I'd like to go into business with you, into your cookie business." He takes a bite of his cookie. He says, "Oh, is this a chili cookie?" And Traxx says, "Yeah, it is." And then Traxx says, "You've still got a day to get out of town, or I'll kill you." And then the bad guy gets back into his car and says, "This is what I think about your cookies." Does a huge fart from out of nowhere and then explodes.
Yeah, that classic tale.
And then you've still got half an hour left. And I was dumbfounded. What on earth is going on in this film?
There are some scenes that work, and there are some jokes that land, and I think you could string it all together. But I think our lead guy Shadow Stevens, he's probably got something. He's certainly got a lot of forehead, that's for sure.
He's got a lot of mullet and a lot of forehead. Yeah.
Yes, as is the style of the day. I'm just going to pick up a couple of lines that I wrote down. I got a monkey in here begging for his life. That's an actual monkey in the pet shop scene. Not a line I've ever written down before. When Traxx first turns up at Hadleyville, he confronts the chief of police, I guess he is, and he's saying, I deal with garbage and trash. And the guy says, "What's the difference?" And he says, "Garbage you dump, trash you kill." So that's good to know. Good to know. I shall check the Oxford English Dictionary and just check they've got those definitions right of garbage and trash. Yeah.
Shall we talk about the mayor of the town?
Oh, I thought you would. Yeah. So she has two main scenes, well, three, I guess. But the two scenes that she appears in, she is basically ravenous for a bit of Traxx action.
Oh, God.
She appears and basically throws herself at him. Once at a desk. Hey, whose was that? Was that his? That wasn't his desk. Was that her desk?
No. The main guy, Traxx, was at the local library.
Oh, yes, you're right.
Well, I mean, obviously, that's usually where the protagonist of a film is.
Yes, and that's often where you have a sex scene is in a library.
Well, it's also often where the mayor goes at night on her own and has random sex with a complete stranger after literally talking to them
with a vigilante. Yeah,
45 seconds.
Yeah. Again, it is played for laughs, but it doesn't quite land. It's close, but it's not right.
It's dodge.
And then a second time, she confronts him in a deserted supermarket, and again starts to throw herself at him. They're distracted by the Guzik brothers throwing grenades outside. Sadly for both of them.
Yeah.
She's a strange one.
Her character is very unfortunate. Can we talk about the soundtrack, please?
You beat me to it. That was next on what I was going to talk about. So, I have to confess, I've got a bit of a thing for 80s MIDI synths. I think they're kind of cool in a cheesy, retro, nostalgic way.
Oh my God.
So I can listen to quite a bit of it.
Yeah.
As it opens, you've got full-on keytar hell. And some custom written songs just for the job, which features lines like, "If you've fallen between the tracks, talk to Traxx." Oh, I said it wrong. I've completely I've completely lost the impact of that line now. "If you've fallen between the cracks, talk to Traxx."
Yeah.
And if you're dealing with a bunch of maniacs, you need to ring Traxx.
Yeah, it's not
So,
clear
yeah.
how or in through which sort of medium you actually contact him. Maybe he's got a card that he leaves in each town.
Just go to the bakery. They'll have his cookies there.
Yeah, the soundtrack is probably the most 80s soundtrack I've ever heard. It is every aspect of dodgy late 80s music. I really like the theme tune is a really like throaty that kind of like ridiculous.
No subtlety.
Terrible.
Plenty of synths, plenty of shredding as well.
Oh my god, yeah. So much wailing on keyboards all over the place. Yeah, it's one of those soundtracks that sort of made me feel a bit ill, but I couldn't stop listening to it. It's like a really dirty little secret. That kind of oh, this is so awful, and I can't stop listening. I urge people to go out and listen to if you can find the soundtrack of the film Traxx 1988, I'm sure there's some of it knocking around. Even if you don't watch this film, you should listen to the music. Oh dear.
Just one more thing, and that's there were plenty of explosions and gunfights and fights happening. However, they all took place on the same 50 meters of road.
Oh yeah.
They clearly got the budget for a bit of set, and boy, did they get their money's worth.
Every single other scene was shot on this fake street set from the same exact angle. They didn't even bother changing the angle. Sometimes at day, sometimes at night. So basically, I'm thinking that this town is just one street. It's quite a small town. Yeah, I remember Ridley Scott talking about he only really had one street in Blade Runner. So he was like, yeah, we'll shoot it from different angles. We'll light it differently. We'll get a bit of rain on it, give it some sort of atmospherics. No, none of that. None of that.
Well, funny enough, he had the same in Alien. He only built like an L shape of corridor or something like that. But again, just shooting it from different positions and different angles meant you can get a lot out of it. They just film it from the same thing every time.
Yeah, no one will notice.
They did do it once at night, which something.
Can also we talk about the sheer volume of deaths in this film?
Yeah, I've tried to look up the body count of this film, but it's not logged anywhere I could find. I'm very sad about that.
We weren't logging it, but I mentally logged the volume of people shot, bludgeoned, beaten up, thrown out of windows, exploded. I mean, we did say that this film is a complete and utter mess, but the people who are really earning their money are the explosives team and the stuntmen. My word, there are explosions, things like smashing windows, bottles, people falling downstairs out of windows, getting run over twice. Yeah, it is extremely violent, and from almost every side, actually. I mean, the main guy, Traxx, is about as violent as the bad guys. In fact, he probably kills more people. Was there not a scene where he slowly drives down the road and gets out a submachine gun and just mows people down? That happened, didn't it?
Does indeed. Yes, and I'm sure he knows that everyone he shoots is a bad guy.
Well,
it's a very good shot.
Yeah, of course. That was the bad guy street. There's only one street, and they're all bad.
That's true. So I think Traxx is a flawed little gem. So I think it's really close to being good, but it's not quite there. But there's bits of it. If you can find, there's probably a supercut somewhere on YouTube about the best 5 minutes. That's probably worth watching.
And there are only.
But would you recommend people watch it?
There are only 5 minutes that are good. I think I would. Yes, I would recommend this film. yet again with a caveat, just like don't expect it to continue in the vein that it starts in, which is a fairly normal film. It goes off-piste, and my God, it rattles through. There is so much going on. There's explosions. There's loads of like terrible jokes. There's car chases. There's awful music all the time. It is a assault on the senses. So it's certainly not boring.
There is a lot of everything in this film.
Yeah, it's like a huge buffet which is sort of like shoved down your throat, and I do feel a bit sick after watching it, but I think it's worth watching. It's certainly entertaining.
Well, there you have it. Have you seen Traxx? Do you agree with us? Get in touch with us on Twitter at We Watch Bad Films, Instagram also at We Watch Bad Films. Indeed, if you've got any films that you think we're missing that we should watch, do get in touch and let us know. But that's all for us for now. Goodbye, Jay.
Goodbye.